Dance Chat. My name is Curran and we're here for our first Q&A live forum, coming to you from the Come Together Dance Teachers Convention. What a great response. We are so excited to be coming to you from the convention here on the Gold Coast, and we have the most amazing panel of dance industry leaders here with us. Tonight, please welcome on the panel, we have Howell. She is the internationally renowned dance physiotherapist and the creator of the ballet blog. Big round of applause for Lisa. We have the editor of Dance Australia magazine, Miss Karen van Ulzen. Direct from the US of A, we have a wonderful dance entrepreneur and founder and president of More Than Just Great Dancing, Misty, Lown. And a familiar face from Dance Chat. We've got director, choreographer and host of Dance Chat, Mr. Malek. As always, we are joined by the gorgeous Yvette Lee, who's here, who's going to be fielding some of those questions from the audience. Hello, Yvette, how are you doing?
Good, how are you? So I have here Stacey Morgan from Port Macquarie. Stacey, what's your question for the panel?
You guys are so inspiring as far as dance industry goes. I would just like to know, from a dance teacher's perspective, if I am becoming extinct. And what I mean by that is I find it really hard because my dance school and my dance teaching is based around a love of dance and growing great people and young, confident dancers. But we're saturated in the media with dancers who are explosive and doing great tricks and acrobatics, and our parents see that and our students see that and they want to do the latest and the greatest. And perhaps it's not the very best thing for their bodies, especially as they're growing. So my dance school that loves and nurtures and my way of teaching, I'm wondering how I keep up with that growing trend of the kids that want to do all the latest and the greatest stuff, and how do I keep educating my parents that, yes, that's great, but what we're doing is also really important.
Thank you very much, Stacey. What a wonderful question. I think we'll start with Misty. Misty, I mean, all the trends coming here in Australia, they all start first over in the US of A. You've got a massive, massive amount of dance and dance schools over there.
It's a lot of responsibility to take on here.
I mean, what can we do about this?
Good dance is never going to go out of style. In fact, my whole company, More Than Just Great Dancing, is built on the foundation that if we are only teaching tricks, we are missing the entire point of dance. And that is that dance education, always and forever, has first and foremost been about people. It has been about changing lives and creating an environment where life skills that pass the lifespan of dance or dancer or dance on the stage actually carry on. And what we need to do is educate parents. And we love it when kids get inspired by seeing great dance and even seeing some of the fun tricks. That gets kids motivated. And when they see that, they might put in the long hours to become great because they are inspired. But we have to let parents know that the outcome for most of these kids is not to end up on a TV show. It's not even to end up on a stage, but it is to take away what's good and great about dance, and that is that kids learn to fall down and to get up. They learn that on the team, they're only as strong as their weakest link, so they carry everybody along with them, and they learn to finish what they start. And that's going to make them not just great dancers, but great people.
Absolutely. Now, Lisa, you're a physiotherapist. You're quite outspoken and sometimes do rub people the wrong way. There is this massive trend that tricks rule. If you don't have the tricks, well, you know, you don't get the applause. What is this doing to our young dancers' bodies?
Yeah, it is a question that we get a lot, and we have a huge Australian readership and a huge US readership, and it is a question that we do get a lot. My concern is that there are certain things at certain ages that can negatively impact bodies in the long term. And I think there isn't enough education about this and enough people standing up. And I've kind of been waiting for somebody to say something and realising that, yeah, it kind of has to be me. Because There are certain things that happen as we're growing, and there are certain tricks, such as all those knee drops, that if you are still developing and the growth plates just below your knee are still soft and moldable, you can do serious damage by falling onto those repeatedly. And I think this is where we're trying to educate more people and get parents educated so that they are asking different questions rather than seeing all the tricks and wondering why dance teachers such as yourself aren't doing them. I think that it's a really, really important thing, and we're trying to provide as much education as we can. Parents don't want to injure their children. They're paying for their kids to be in dance because their kids love to dance, they love to move, and I believe that keeping that art is so, so, so important. I think as a parent and as dance teachers, exposing kids to other forms is amazing. I know when Nedlands Dance Theatre came to Sydney, the kids all came back, everyone who went and saw that came back and like, wow, that's dancing. And it was amazing because their whole concept of contemporary dance changed by seeing a really high level professional company. So I think as their parents, as their teachers, we need to be exposing them to the good stuff as well as all the stuff that's freely available.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, how do we continue? You're one person, you're sending this message out. How do we really get this message and this education out? I mean, Curran, you run a very successful dance magazine. As an editor and publisher, what is it that we can do to really help put an end to this?
Well, I think I agree with both the speakers. We need to remind people why they are training and what they're training for. And when you say that tricks rule, I mean, who's setting this rule? Because as far as I can see, it doesn't reflect what's actually being performed out on the professional stage.
Completely.
What are they actually training these kids to do?
Exactly.
To me, it's a kind of cheap exploitation in a way. It's making almost performing monkeys out of these kids because they can get their legs up high. But where is that going to get them when it comes to auditioning for music theatre, for instance? That's not what's required. Okay, you need to be flexible, but you need a lot more than that. You need to, and also what you're saying about exposing kids to what other types of dance forms are out there, will perhaps open their minds to the fact that it all comes down to the fact that dance is about communicating. And getting your leg up high only says one thing, unless it depends on the context it's in, obviously. But if all you're saying is, gee whiz, I can get my leg up high, that's all you're saying.
Absolutely. And I was having a discussion earlier with Lisa at her stand, and she was telling me a story about how, you know, people wanted to be able to have their leg go up like this and do these amazing tricks. And she's like, well, what is your end goal? What do you want?
Yes.
Do you want to win a trophy now when you're 16, or do you want a career in dance?
Yeah.
Like, what is the end goal? I think it is perhaps getting a little bit blurred. I mean, is competition dancing healthy for our industry? I come from an acting background. We don't really have acting competitions. So when you came into dance, it was very, very foreign to me. And I just wonder, is competition healthy?
Ooh, a good question there, Chris. Is competition healthy? Now, I grew up in competitions. I very much enjoyed competing and meeting new people, and it was a very friendly environment. I did a lot of regional competitions. But I have to agree with Curran so much here. There is a massive gap forming between the professional industry and what we are seeing in competitions. Now, that can't be a good thing for our industry because it's all fair that we are not all going to be dancers, but we're all going to be human and we all need to walk. You know, I've had back injuries through my career. Some of these kids who might not be a dancer also don't have the physiques to be doing some of these steps. Even internally, they don't have the correct hips to be actually rotating them the way they're being forced to rotate them. This can't be a healthy decision. We're not going into swimming pools and learning swimming, but telling them to stay underwater for 5 minutes, just because that's kind of really cool and you're going to get a big round of applause when you come out of it. And it is something that, of course, people are going to get defensive. People are going to go, I know what I'm doing. But in my entire professional career of dancing, I didn't do one trick. I didn't do one leg mount. I definitely paid my leg above 90 degrees. Yes, these trends might actually be hurting our industry and lessening the opportunities for dancers to actually become dancers. And I think that's a really, really big concern that we do need to start talking about. And it's that whole being afraid that we can't question. And I think, look at science. If someone didn't question that the world isn't flat, maybe we would still be thinking that the world is flat and we were the center of the universe.
Very good. All right, we're going to throw back to Yvette Lee. I think she's got a question there from one of our audience members. Yvette.
So we have Phil here.
Hi, how you going? Thanks, panel. As a father of a dancer, a 14-year-old dancer, and also as a member of the dance community professionally, I actually find it sometimes confronting to watch not only my daughter dance, but also other dancers professionally. And of course, in light of recent events in the media, the negative pressure, of course, that's been placed upon men in the dance community, sometimes it can be confronting, and you also get eyes look at you as if you're, watching those dancers for the wrong reasons. How can we, as a dance community, support men by watching dance who have a genuine love for dance and the passion for dance? How can we, as a community, nurture and support those men?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. Paul, you're our male on the panel there. I mean, you teach dance. You taught dance today. How have things changed in the climate of the last year and a half?
Wow, lots have changed. Lots has changed, and I grew up teaching as a young male, and I was very, very hurt on many occasions when parents would say, I need to watch him in the class. I need to have windows installed. And the person who owned the school installed windows, and I did have to teach with the curtains open, and because parents felt unsafe. And I'm very, very kind and gentle person. We can't utilize our hands and place people anymore because it's taken the wrong way. Yeah, we are living in the world of information and no censorship on the internet, but we can't interact with each other without being thought that our motives are not right. And I feel there needs to be an acceptance, and I understand in the current climate there is going to be a person, or there is going to be people in our lives that aren't good people. They're everywhere. Yes, but that doesn't mean we stop trusting everyone. Yeah, and there is things we are doing working with children checks, and we have to actually, speak out when there is a concern, but do it nicely, and talk to the people directly. Yes, we don't want a hate campaign against male teachers, because for the first time ever, we have so many male dancers dancing. We don't want to take that away from our industry. It's such a beautiful place that we're in right now, and I really feel as people we need to be a tiny bit more accepting to the fact that everyone loves dance now, and that's a really good thing. And we should celebrate the good things instead of just focusing on the one or two people that spoil the party for everyone else.
Well said. Now, Misty, you're a mother of 5.
Yes.
How does this affect you? Does this happen in America? How do you feel about having your children? Do your children dance?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
some willingly, some not.
But I mean, how do you feel having them? Do you have male teachers teaching your children?
We do. We have a variety, and that reflects the demographic of the industry. There are male dancers, there are female dancers, and we have male teachers and we have female teachers. But what really concerns me about the state of the industry and in terms of that is when we attend competitions and we see little girls on stage, and there's 9-year-olds and they're performing a number to a song called Wicked Little Girls, and I've seen that. And I thought, well, I'm just not going to take my kids to this competition. I'm not going to go to that city. Surely that's specific to that area. And you truck your kids across the state a different direction. And then in another state, I saw a dance on stage, and there's literally children being tied to the bed, and it's a song about demonic possession. And little girls are coming up and, just terrorizing the girl on the bed. And I thought, first thought was, what was the teacher thinking? And then I backed up, and I thought, what was the daddy and the mommy thinking? Because they paid for that. And they are voting and endorsing that kind of trend with their dollars. So if we want to see this come to a stop? And I think I'm hearing the gentleman say that. He's watching this happen. And what do you do as a parent? And when you're seeing that, what stand do you take? Stop buying it. If you don't like that, stop buying it, because I can guarantee that if teachers or parents stop buying costumes that are made with less than a half yard of fabric, the companies will stop making them.
Absolutely. I'm interested to know that this is a very non-regulated industry, dance. I mean, we do have peak bodies within the industry, but there still is no regulation. Is that something that we should be going down that path to ensure the safety of our children and that you know, that proper procedures and teaching methods are followed? What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, it depends. Regulation is a very wide concept, but some competitions in response to this have now actually started introducing their own rules about what sort of things they allow teachers to present on stage, and I think that's a great thing. And I know they've implemented things like, in one case, the leg mount, they've even said you can't do it anymore, which is perhaps going a bit too far, but they can play a role. Competition committees can play a role in insisting that clothing is of age appropriate, and that choreography is age appropriate. That might be one way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sorry.
No, go ahead.
The trouble is too that this trend, it's not just dance. The dance world is just reflecting our culture, really, and the over-sexualisation of children in our culture in general. And kids are seeing, you know, their pop idols strutting and thrusting around on stage and it's only natural that they're going to want to imitate them. So I guess, as Misty says too, it's up to the parents and the teachers really to just try to direct that aspiration in the right way.
It's such a good point. 3 years ago, 6-year-olds loved Miley Cyrus as Hannah Montana. 3 years later, they love Miley Cyrus swinging naked on a wrecking ball. And this is the culture that we're moving into. There's no censorship on this stuff. And you know, I came in, like, you can sing that all you want, but you've got to remember that these Disney stars are actually their favourite people. And this is ingrained in this culture, and unless we actually stand and do something, we can't change Miley Cyrus, but we can educate people to what is appropriate. And I feel there seems to be a breakdown of that communication and education across the board, which brings us back to regulation.
Yeah, completely. But do you think, I've got a wonderful question here actually, maybe I'll just read that out. It's from Bryony Kent, aged 17. Do you think that reality TV shows such as Dance Mums and even So You Think You Can Dance are actually beneficial to the development of a healthy dance industry? I actually might play a little clip to start. Are we all familiar with Dance Mums? Let's just take a little clip for those who haven't seen it before. There we have it, Dance Mums. Wow. I don't know about you, but that kind of gets my heart racing, not in the quite right way. What are TV shows like this doing, not only in promoting that fierce competitive nature of competitions, but also in such bad behaviour like this? What do you think? Do you think this is having a negative effect on what it is we do, or is it just fluff? Is it just entertainment?
I think the reaction of the audience said it all. If the camera were out there right now and we have people holding their faces and they're gasping and they're averting their gaze, it's a train wreck. It's an absolute train wreck. Now, if there is something that positive has come out of all of the dance shows, it's that enthusiasm for dance in children has never been higher. However, what we have to realize is that these kids are growing up as digital natives. They live online. They live on Instagram. And when this is all that's put in front of them as what they should aspire to or what real dance looks like, you know, that somebody who can train you up and give you opportunities leads with a stick instead of with love, that's a warped sense of reality. And to go back to what Curran said, let's expose them, let's raise up the real working professional dancers as celebrities of our industry so that kids can become discerning consumers of information.
Absolutely. Lisa?
But I think that, like, I agree with you. I think that raising the profile of dance has been amazing. You know, you can talk to a cab driver about what happened on So You Think You Can Dance. I think that's amazing. And I would definitely put those two in very different brackets.
Absolutely.
I think that I'm not a parent, but I think for parents it must be a pretty hard situation. You know, if you've got your kid wanting to watch that, I think a lot of the discussion that comes after that of what the kid thinks they feel about that. Is that something to aspire to? What do they feel when they watch human beings acting like that? To me, I feel sad for humanity that people can act like that. It's not just dancers.
It's crazy.
I'm mortified. But I think that it does make it really, really hard. You know, I have beautiful nieces and they love dance, and I'm sure I actually need to talk to them about whether they want dance moms. But I would be really interested to see what they think of that behaviour. And I think it raises a question. So if that is out there, then we need to teach our children, as you say, how to be consumers of it rather than just taking it hook, line and sinker. But my concern is also for the kids on that show, for their psychological well-being. If they're growing up under the scrutiny of that amount of cameras, and the same we're talking about with Instagram, they're going through puberty in the camera, online. I know how hard it was doing it normally, let alone with cameras on you every step of the way. So I'm wondering what the support structures are for those kids who are on these shows. Are they having any support in the background? What happens to them when they're suddenly not on the show? I'm concerned for them 10 years down the track when they were the has-been on Dance Moms. You know, that's from a person point of view.
Is there any dance mums or dance mothers or fathers in the room right now? I imagine that there might be. How does this kind of program make you feel?
I think it's what that makes me angry because it's not profiling dance properly and it's sending the wrong message. And I think as people responsible in the media, we have the right to lead as opposed to follow. And at the end of the day, if we can all say the same message and lead with positivity and be courageous enough to tell our children that that is not acceptable behaviour and that that's not how we would expect you to behave in a studio or lead if you end up being a leader in dance. Absolutely. That's what we need to do. We're all responsible for that. That's the lesson that we can actually learn from Dance Mums. With So You Think You Can Dance, that's completely different.
Completely different story.
It's a completely different profile, and I think that generates positivity and that leads to great outcomes for those particular dancers, and they can springboard their career. But I wouldn't like to see reality get in the way of dance.
Absolutely.
I would just like to quickly say something.
No, go for it.
It's funny, and I've watched quite a bit of Dance Mums, in the sense of like it's a reality television show, and I do my research, and we have watched episodes, and I have gotten very angry or upset or decided not to watch it, but the more and more I hear about certain incidences at competitions here on Australian shores, that's accurate. So if you're talking about how it actually affects the children, how are the parents actually affecting each other? Because is it actually this television show that made at a comp last year, parents drink wine and then have a scrag fight where the police were called? Is that the TV show, or is that actually the culture that is embedded in our schools? There's a reason why they call it reality TV, and I feel this is heightened drama, but the stories that I'm seeing are actually real stories in our dance industry. This is like the Real Housewives of dance.
I love, Paul, that you managed to work scrag into the dialogue with this
Sorry.
evening.
I do my best. So yeah, it's a difficult one because there's a lot of reality TV shows and they are based on drama, and that's the premise of a reality television show, and television producers produce it. So it's not a reflection of how wonderful our industry is. It is going to focus on the drama, but I just am hearing more and more that this is actually becoming our culture. So I'm not sure if is reality TV affecting our children or our things. Our actual dance schools and competition and the need to win. The win, you must win, you must do the tricks. Is it all tied in? Is it the reality television show, or is this actually what's happening?
That's a good question to pause on. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Remember, if you do have a question, you can text it through anonymously on the number up there, or you can ask a question in person by seeing Yvette Lee over in the corner. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Dance Chat Live Q&A Forum, coming to you from the Come Together Dance Convention. All right, we've got another text question that's come in here, and this one is from Trish, from Victoria. How does the panel feel about teachers and studios feeling that they own their students?
Great
This is something that it gets my blood boiling, but I'll pass it over to you, Paul. Come on.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm going to quote someone who's really inspired me, and it's this beautiful thing of we get to meet so many different people, and as teachers we get to impact so many different people. And if you've only impacted them and been able to share your knowledge with them for 1 year, and they've gone to seek a different level of training or a different place, and you wish them all the best of luck, they will come back and thank you and be your friend for the rest of your life. If you tell them that you cannot go, you will not leave this school, they are going to leave, and they're not going to like you anymore, and you're going to lose the respect of these people. And I just think that we should open our doors more, because if you are good at what you do, and you're a trustworthy person who's lovely and caring, they're going to come back and they're going to go on to great things. And those people who go on to successful careers all over the world, who study at places like Victorian College of the Arts Secondary School, if you said don't go, they might not actually become the Amy Hollingsworths of the world, who did travel the world, 20 years being a dancer, and comes back and thanks the person who originally taught her in that country town because she remembers, and they shipped her off and said, go, be amazing. Yeah? Does that make sense?
That completely makes sense. Now, Misty, you've got a massive amount of students,
yes,
correct?
Absolutely.
Do you own them?
No, we send them all over the place. In fact, it is only to our advantage when these kids go off and study at the Ailey School in the summer, or Ballet Magnificat, or AMDA, or Dance Revolution, because they are not only getting the best of the training that can equip them for their future, they're bringing back an elevated experience to our students. And everybody steps up. When someone has stepped up, the best thing a studio can be is a springboard for students.
Fantastic. All right, we've got another question coming here. I'm sorry, Lisa, I am going to come back to you. But we do have another question here from a vet down in the audience.
Thanks, Chris. I've got Jess here from Colac. She's going to read her question for the panel.
My question is, do you think there's a way to regulate a standard when it comes to dance studios in Australia so that we can expand the Australian dance industry and nurture young dancers into people who have something great to contribute?
Fantastic. Fantastic question, Jess. Curran?
I think there's a role here for the dancing syllabus organisations like the ATOD, actually. A very strong role here where they can actually, as part of their syllabus, write things like codes of ethics into what they do, and suggestions for how teachers can run studios and that sort of thing, which some of the better ones, I might add, already do, like the ATOD, I believe. And also Ausdance, I know, particularly in response to some of the recent scandals, has actually added to its code of ethics, I think it is, some quite specific suggestions to teachers
Yeah.
in that regard.
Fantastic. We actually have Rosalind Dundas from Ausdance National in the audience right now. Yvette, can we see if we can get a microphone over to Rosalind?
Hi, Rosalind. Hello.
Hey, Rosalind, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
This question about regulation. Well, what is it that Ausdance can do? What does Ausdance do to help this across the entire industry?
Well, things we need to remember is this isn't a new issue. We're having a lot of conversation about it now because there's some media attention. But how we support young people to have positive dance experiences in a studio environment has been a conversation that's been around as long as we've had studios. And we've been trying different strategies over the last 20 years to ensure that we set a standard that we can all be proud of. A code of ethics already exists, but what we need is the community to sign on to it and to bring pressure to bear on others in the community to make it a reality. We can look at regulation, but there are already laws in place that the state government has a responsibility to enforce, such as working with children checks. And they're not always going to be the best and perfect answer because there are levels of complexity, levels of regulation. We don't want a police officer standing at every door of every studio.
No.
We want everybody to be working together, and it's great to have these kind of conversations at conferences like this where we can get people together to flesh out ideas, to look at each other and go, we want to do better, how can we join together to make that happen? And Ausdance has a role as a peak body to help facilitate these conversations, to look at the information we provide to parents, to dance studio teachers and owners, and to young people themselves through many different formats. But it is a whole of community conversation that needs to take place and to use the resources that we've already got to hand.
Absolutely. Do any of our panel have anything to add to this? I think that was fantastic. And thank you very much, Rosalind, for being with us here tonight. It's really fantastic to have the presence of Ausdance here. You certainly do amazing work. All right, we're going to go to a light question just for a moment.
Okay.
This one's come in anonymously through our text messages. What, if you could go back to tell your 16-year-old dancing self something, because we were all dancers. Well, I wasn't a dancer. I'm going to stand on that one. But what? Thanks, Mum. That's my mother down there. You tried. Anyway, back to the question. So, what would you tell your 16-year-old self, Paul?
Oh, let's start with Lisa.
Okay. No. We're starting with Paul. Remember, you're not host tonight.
I would have told myself to work harder. And I would have told myself to be myself. Because we work so hard about worrying about what we're doing, how we're doing it, to be something or someone that someone else wants. And then we get into the industry and realize the only person you've got is yourself. And I feel that a teenage version of myself, when I only found out that the best person I can be is Paul Malek, was when I was 27. I feel if I was 16 and actually dropped the worry and actually just really tried hard at being the best person I could be as a teenager, I would have had a very different career. And maybe I wouldn't have taken 27 to, be really, truly comfortable in who I am.
Absolutely. Misty?
I just have to look myself in the eye and just say, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You have a hope and a future. Because when I looked at myself at that age, I didn't like what I saw. And the truth was that I had just a fine body, and a girl can look in the mirror and see something completely different than what the world sees, and it's hard enough to get through childhood to adulthood in one piece without adding the complexity of growing up and going through puberty in Lycra in front of a leotard. So I would look myself in the eye and say, the way you're built and the turnout that you have and the way your leg goes is absolutely fine, and you're going to get to the places that are designed for you to get to. You're not meant to walk anybody else's journey. I think a lot of kids, especially now with the social media, they're looking at these Instagram celebrities and they're projecting, they want to be that, and they see where they are and what this polished version is there's a gigantic gap. And I would want all kids to know that just the way you're designed and the gifts and talents you have are just for you. and they're enough. Like we always hear, you're not good enough, you're not long enough, strong enough, lean enough, blonde enough, turned out enough, whatever enough. The reality is you're enough. And that's what I tell myself.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Curran.
Probably the opposite of Paul. I worked very hard, but I was very driven, and I would probably say now to myself, be more open-minded about what you can do. Have a broader approach to the sorts of styles, the sorts of areas of theatre you could tackle.
Fantastic. Interesting. Very interesting. Lisa.
I'll leave it there.
I want to take Misty's pep talk. I would probably say you have no idea what's coming. I would probably, along the same lines, that everything that you are is exactly what's needed. I didn't have the best turnout. I was, got told very early on, you're not going to be a professional classical dancer. That was not even in my realm because it was front and centre. But knowing that everything that you are is enough, and all those things that make you unique can actually benefit a lot of people, and use your mind and use your heart and keep authentic to yourself, and then you'll actually be able to help a lot of other people, even though you don't fit that perfect mould of what is desired in the dance world. I think that's probably
fantastic.
what I would say.
Fantastic. Well, I would tell my 16-year-old self, don't tell your mother that you tried dancing. Thanks, Mum. All right, we've got another question coming from Yvette and the audience.
I've got Brooke here from Morwell.
Hi. My question is, I think many of us would agree that we have a huge array of supportive and encouraging parents in our school. However, I'm finding that as a primary school teacher and a dance studio owner, that over the years that I've taught parents, they're probably a lot more confident to approach you with what they believe you should be including in your curriculum or how you should be teaching routines, and are probably more confident to offer suggestions. My question is, how do you cope with that in a polite and professional manner, but also make the stand that they need to understand that your professionalism and your training is paramount in what you're doing with the children in your class?
Wow, great question. Who wants to start with this one? This is
I've
open.
started the past three, so I'm going to...
Come on, Lisa.
I'm not a studio owner.
Do you deal with parents much?
We deal with parents. I have it the opposite, that people come in and tell me what injury they have. And that, that's sometimes quite interesting. So I do get that. On that particular question, I think it's a really hard thing to do diplomatically. Asking them their outcome of, and instead of getting them into the specifics, if they want to have her having 3 side mounts in the routine, asking the outcome for the routine, or about whether it's the happiness of the child, or what, try and get it away from those specifics. If they're trying to direct it, I would probably be not diplomatic enough, and which is why I'm not a studio owner, because I'd probably tell them to come and teach a class.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think this is coming down into the rise of social media? I mean, we're all connected now. I'm not sure if everyone here is aware, but there are some Facebook groups out there where dance mothers and even sometimes dance studio owners kind of come together and, to put it quite bluntly, have a bitch. Now, these pages, they're
fascinating.
They make me go pale sometimes with the amount of comments. I mean, I do marketing online with Facebook, and the amount of traction they get and interactivity is crazy on some of these comments. But it's so negative, and it's all focused on the negativity. Now, you spoke, I think, yesterday or today about something quite similar, like, about staying positive. Don't be negative.
Yeah, absolutely. I think culture trumps strategy, it trumps training, it trumps anything every day of the week. The culture that you create as a leader in your studio sets the tone for your students, for your parents, and all of the interactions that are to follow. So, when we look at what we saw on the screen, it started from somewhere, right? It's a chicken and egg conversation, but what came first? You know, a parent's disrespecting a teacher is disrespecting a parent, but obviously the culture is a downhill spiral. Mm-hmm. So we as teachers and studio owners are responsible for setting a culture that will create a positive way to interact with parents, because we are on the same side as the parents. That's what we have to remember. We want the same outcome, and that is healthy, happy, confident kids who can become the best to their ability. So if you just move from this adversarial, you know, what's good for the parents, bad for the teacher, what's bad for the studio owners, you know, good for the student, we have to get on the same side of the table and understand that we all want the same goals, and culture is the keeper of that.
Absolutely. Paul?
Oh, really, really good question, Brooke. Very, very hard to find a proper solution, because every incident is very different and every parent's very different. And there is something with culture that's really important. If you have a bad seed in your business or with your clients, it has to go. And if it's not threatening, you can be as polite as possible, but you're not going into their home and telling them how to cook them their eggs. You're not also going into their office and telling them how they should schedule their boss's meetings if they're an assistant or something like that. You have to educate them and say, I'm wanting what is best for your student, for your child. And if that's not good enough, then there are many other places that might be suitable for your child. And I know we don't want to lose clients, but they're the people you spend the most time on as a studio owner. When I owned a school for 5 years, I didn't spend time with the amazing parents, the parents that trusted me and were really passionate. I spent time with the people who were standing at that front desk, banging their fists, going, why? And I got to the point maybe 3 years in where I started going, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think Mia is just the most beautiful child, or Jordan, or, you know, lovely, lovely, but there is a school down the road, and they are promoting that they are going to turn your child into a star. Maybe you can go down there, because here I'm going to teach your child to be an amazing human being, and maybe one day they'll also be a dancer.
Yes.
So, yeah.
What a fantastic, fantastic comment there, Paul. All right, well, we are actually starting to run out of time here. We're actually wrapping up right now. I am going to give each of our panellists just a moment to perhaps make one final comment on the industry. Perhaps we can go down a positive route even. I don't know, it has been a bit negative, but I think that we have really been focusing on some of the stuff that really does need to be discussed. Would you agree?
I think it's been an amazing forum, and I thank you guys for putting it together, and everyone for coming and supporting it and having a voice to some of these issues, because I know some people are worried about bringing them up. But also I think the biggest thing for me has been the absolute positivity and feedback and amazing comments even I've had from just about every delegate, of coming and saying, thank you for doing what you're doing, thank you for stepping up and saying things. We know it's not easy, but we're glad you're doing it. And for me, that makes me want to do it more. So I thank everyone for their support. I think dance is one of the most amazing things. It's a science, it's an art, it's communication, it stirs people's souls. It can be done in an awful way, it can be done in a beautiful way. And I think if there are enough people who are working together, each with their little special parts that make it beautiful, then that's an amazing thing to gift our children with and to bring a next generation through. And I think all of us are really focused on, we don't want healthy dancers, we want healthy people. We want good human beings who are going to care about each other, who are going to have healthy bodies, healthy minds, well into their adult years, rather than just till they're 18. So I think here there have been so many people who are on that same page, and I thank you guys for bringing everyone together. So.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm going to totally interrupt.
Oh, all right, go Paul.
And these wonderful human beings that you're producing and stuff, we want them to be the audiences at the professional shows that we want to have more of. We want to instill a love of dance, and I feel that there's a lot of people who go through their schooling and then leave, and they don't want to step into a studio. They don't want to go see a dance concert, and they don't want their kids to dance. So it's really, really important to focus on instilling the love of dance, even for those people who aren't going to be dancers, because they're going to be our future audiences, our costume makers, our lighting designers. We don't want to lose these people for dance. We want them to stay in dance. Sorry, I just want to say that.
Well, actually, can I continue on?
Yeah,
that?
fabulous.
And that is to say that remember to go and see dance, and remember to tell your students to go and see dance, because it's quite remarkable how often you realise that kids may have been learning for years and they've never actually stepped into a theatre. They don't even know what they're really aspiring to. And that might help bring together that disconnect between what they're doing in competitions and what's actually being done in the professional world at that very high artistic level.
Fantastic, Misty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody who's sitting here today is sitting here because dance had a profound impact on their life in some way. And we're all committed at this convention and others around the world for raising the bar for dance education and for the experience that our kids will get, so that what we experience as children had such a profound impact on us will not be lost for future generations. And it is hard, as Lisa said, to sometimes be the one who stands against the tide or the one who raises their voice. But as you said earlier, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? And we're just really excited, and I'm thankful to be here representing the United States and to be a part of a conversation that is certainly global in nature, and that is to raise the bar for dance and to make sure that all kids have an opportunity to enjoy its benefits and the joy it creates.
Wow. I'd like to give a huge thank you to our wonderful panel of guests this evening. We've got Lisa Howell, Curran van Ulzen, Mr. Lown, and of course Paul Malek, and of course you, our wonderful audience. The conversation does not end here, so let's keep asking questions, let's keep raising these topics. Now remember, you can follow us and you can join us via our website at www.dancechat.com.au. We'll be bringing back another Dance Chat live Q&A forum again very soon. But until then, good night.